to the Pilot Partner training video on airplane instrument currency tracked by Pilot Partner. Pilot Partner has a feature where it will track all of your instrument currency and handle all the FAA rules between earning currency in a real airplane and earning the currency in a aircraft training device such as a Redbird FMX or a Touch Sim by FlyThisSim. The currency rules can be quite complicated, so Pilot Partner makes this a lot easier by automatically tracking it. To get started, we're going to go over to the Aircraft tab and look at the aircrafts we already have listed in Pilot Partner. We already have a couple real aircrafts in a Redbird FMX, but let's show you how to add a new simulator inside of Pilot Partner. We'll go ahead and type in a name for this, in this case Touch Sim, and we'll click the Add AATD BATD button, and this will launch the Add Simulator Wizard. Here we'll make sure the name is correct, and then we'll select the correct aircraft class. We'll tie this to whether it's a single engine, multi-engine, seaplane, or a helicopter, because that will affect how your currency is handled. Then we'll be able to select whether it's an AATD or a BATD. The currency requirements for AATD, the Advanced Aircraft Trainer Device, and the Basic Aircraft Training Device will generate the same kind of currency requirements for you, and we'll confirm the rules that will be applied in the text below. So now we'll go ahead and click Save, and now we have a new flight simulator that's available to be used. You can also add this while adding a new flight by typing in a new tail number, and it will launch the wizard just the same. So now let's go add a new flight. What we're going to do is select the Touch Sim as our aircraft that we're going to fly. And let's go ahead and back this up a couple months. Today is June 25th, so let's move back to a flight in the middle of April. And we're going to demonstrate all the requirements to get credit for using a aircraft training device to get your currency. So you need more than 3 hours of total time, and go ahead and log your routes of flight just like you normally will, but don't worry, what you type in while you're flying a simulator won't show up on your map on the dashboard. Now it's important that we still collect the pilot and command time. Even though when you're flying a simulator, your pilot and command time and your total time will not be added to your flight totals, our currency monitor only will track flights that have pilot and command time against your currency. So now the next important thing is that we log at least 3 hours of simulated instrument time or IMC time. Pilot Partner will credit both of those two categories to meet the FAA regulation. But note, it's not the total time that matters. You need at least 3 hours of instrument experience in order to get credit for currency. And to do that, we look at your IMC and your hood time, add those together to get your 3 hours. The next requirement is the number of approaches that you do. You must do at least 6 approaches in order to get credit for currency using an aircraft training device. Any combination of these approaches will work, so just make sure they add up to 6. You also have to have at least 1 hold and 1 intercept and tracking, and this is true for any instrument currency. And you also need 4 unusual attitude recoveries. But if you read the FAA regulation 61.57, you have to have 2 in the stall condition and 2 in the VNE overspeed condition pointing downwards. We decided not to split those out to keep it simple, so you need 4 total unusual attitude recoveries, but you can use your remarks field to indicate that you did the 2 different attitude recoveries. And this is just to keep things simple and easier instead of having extra categories to track. Now that we have this, we'll click Save, and this flight will give us credit for our instrument currency. And if you look, our instrument currency says we have 4 days of currency left. By clicking the little information icon next to it, we will be able to see all the details behind what makes our currency valid. And here it'll tell us that since we did this flight in April, it applies the 2 calendar month rule to this and breaks down the number of approaches we've done and comes up with the expiration date of end of June as our currency. It will always let us know which rule was being used to generate our currency so that you will be able to look at it and know what options are available to you. And again, looking below, it'll break our approaches down. So we did the number of approaches, we did our holds, we did our tracking, and we did our 4 unusual attitude recoveries. And Pilot Partner makes this real easy for us to look at a quick glance. Now, if you look over at your flight totals, you'll notice that our 3.5 hours was not added to our total time, was not added to our PIC time, and all of our flights remain as 0. If I created a flight total to show me the number of instrument approaches that I had done, my approaches would show and would be totaled, because that's because we feel that an approach in a simulator versus a real airplane is just as good. So we count your approaches, but we do not count your total time. Now let's go add a flight in a real airplane. And let's back this up a couple months to sometime in February. And we're going to log ourselves a real flight using a Piper Archer. And we're going to make this let's make it a little bit longer than that. It's going to be a long flight because we're going to shoot 6 approaches on this flight. And you log this flight just like you would any other flight. Put your route of flight in. And again, it is very important that you have PIC enabled, because you do not get credit for instrument currency if you are not the pilot in command. Log your landings, log your actual instrument time. Maybe we actually flew a little bit into the clouds, but the most of it was under a hood. There is no hour requirements for how much hood time you have in a real airplane. But again, we need our 6 instrument approaches, any combination. We need 1 hold and 1 intercept and tracking, but we do not need unusual attitude recoveries if we're going to qualify for our instrument currency inside of a real airplane. Always recommend making good remarks in your logbook. You never know when the FAA is going to want to have some more details. And now we'll take a look at what happens to our currency. You notice instead of being 4 days expired, now we've got over 60 days. Again, if we click the information icon, we will be able to see the details. And you'll notice that the remarks has changed here, and it has told us that we are now using a real aircraft, so the 6-month rules apply, and we're using that section of the FAR 61.57 to qualify. Even though we qualified in the real airplane, we are showing you the qualifications that you've had both in simulators and the real airplane to justify this currency. This is useful for if you want to extend your currency in the near future, because that simulator flight might help you extend your currency. So this is all the flights that are participating in your instrument currency. And then when we close this out, the next example that we want to show is how do we use the blended model, where you can use the 6-month currency rule in a real airplane and in a simulator side by side. So since we did a full simulator flight where we got 6 approaches and all the requirements for simulator back in April, if we come in June and do a short instrument flight in a real airplane, again making sure PIC is enabled, log it like normal, make sure that we log our hood time as appropriate. All we need is 1 approach, 1 hold, and 1 intercept and tracking, combined with our full requirements for the simulator. In this case was the touch sim that we flew in, and this will count towards 6 months currency under the FAR regulations. Once our currency calculates, now we have 127 days. Looking at the details, you'll notice that we earned our currency in April, so 6 calendar months after April gives us until the end of October 2016 of currency time. If in July we go and fly some more approaches, we can make June our new limiting factor because that's when we did our airplane. And Pilot Partner will automatically switch between these different rules, the airplane only, the simulator only, and the combined method, to determine what is the most furthest out date that you would be current for. And this is how, after you log your flights, you'll notice that all of your totals only show those totals of when you're inside of a real airplane. And this is how Pilot Partner tracks your instrument currency using the current FAR rules. When the FAA changes the rules, we will change that algorithm for you automatically in Pilot Partner, so the next time you log a flight, you'll get credit for the most current rules.